fire burning about 9 kilometers north of Betchico. There are also fires burning in the South Slave, Decho, and Sawtoo regions. We have air quality statements in place for Delaney and Paulatuck. I was noticing on the current conditions forecast board that Paulatuck is already seeing some smoky skies today. Now, NWT Fire says even with all this smoke and all the fires that are burning, there is not currently a threat to any community. But after what happened last year, evacuation is not a distant memory for many of us living in the territory. Just the word wildfire can strike fear in the hearts of many people. But there are ways to cope with that stress and anxiety. And experts like our guest, Janine Hubbard, believe that it's crucial to manage our feelings during such times. Janine is a registered psychologist, and she joins us now on the phone. Janine, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, Janine, wildfire is a constant worry in the summer here in the north. Many of our communities are islands within seas of trees. But last year was far too close for comfort for many of us. And we're left grappling with fears of, could it happen again this year? That sits very heavy, I know, for myself and for many of the people that I know. How do we learn to deal with that fire anxiety?
Well, it's a combination of things. First of all, it's not surprising that some people may be having very strong anxiety and even trauma responses at the moment. When you see images, if you happen to smell smoke, it might be campfire from a neighbor, but any of those sounds and smells and memories can absolutely reactivate kind of that immediacy that you were feeling this time last year. Certainly in kids, you're going to see a lot more of, what if it happens again? What are we going to do? On the flip side, the good news is many of your communities have been through this before successfully. They evacuated, they came back, probably some lessons were learned. There were things like, well, we remembered to pack some of the practical things, but we forgot to pack socks and underwear. And we got to the evacuation site and realized maybe we should have had, more dog food on hand. Lessons learned from the previous time that sometimes you can joke about it a little bit, but it also then provides that sense of resiliency. It's I've been through this before, and I got through okay. Yes, it was scary. Yes, I, spent several weeks having nightmares or, having responses to it. But we got through it. It was okay. And in fact, we were maybe even able to turn some things into a bit of an adventure. At the same time, there's people who have been through it and haven't been so lucky and potentially have had to do rebuilding. Or if nothing else, I remember the images from you guys for last year where the town was fine, but the images of some of the areas that you had to travel through were devastating. And so that's going to be first and foremost on a lot of people's minds right now.
Yeah, it was a hard drive in and out for sure, going through all of those burn areas. With climate change, this threat of fires and these constant fires and the smoke likely isn't going anywhere. As this keeps happening year after year, how do we prepare ourselves for the seasons ahead?
Well, it's a really good reminder. Right now, if you haven't already done so, really good time to look at what's my emergency preparedness kit. Whether it's I might have to stay in my house and not have power for a couple of days, or what if I did have to pack up fairly quickly and get on the move. Really good time as a reminder of, okay, do I know where all the important things are? Do I have things in a state that's ready to go if I need to? Because one of the best ways that we can control anxiety really feeds off of that fear, that unknown, that's what's going to happen. So the more of a sense of control you can feel, in whatever way that looks like for you as a family, the more you feel in control, it's going to help reduce some of those anxiety reactions that you're having.
The community of Fort Good Hope evacuated this year. And while that evacuation was ongoing, I was giving a tour to some school kids here at the CBC. And we were talking about the news, and one of the young children mentioned that Fort Good Hope was evacuated. And I said, yes, that is happening. And we all know how what that is like. We went through it last year. And these children all just wanted to tell their evacuation stories to me. So they're obviously carrying it pretty close to the surface. How do we help kids deal with that?
by letting them talk about it. That's fabulous that they were able to let that out. What we often see is that kids, in particular, up to 50% of kids are going to continue to have some kind of trauma response months, if not a year, after something like an evacuation, where they've kind of been at risk or that potential threat to their own personal safety. Now, that doesn't mean that those symptoms are going to be impairing, but they're certainly going to be there. So things, as I mentioned before, like that trigger of, well, I smell smoke and I wonder if there's going to be a fire. So one of the best things you can do with your kids right now is talk to them, sort of say, hey, look, it's happening again this year. First thing is find out, what do they know? What have they heard? What are they worried about? And that's going to help you with any misperceptions that might be there. But then it's extremely important to then validate whatever those fears are. And it could be something that as an adult you feel is kind of ridiculous. This is why, listen, go get your kid to pack their own emergency kit with whatever it is they think is important, because I guarantee you as an adult, that's probably not your priority. You can pack the practical stuff for them. But so validate those feelings that they're having, validate those fears, even if they want to talk about prior experiences and kind of, talk to them about the good, the bad, the ugly. Yeah, that was really funny when that happened. That part was really scary. And then talk about how you're feeling in age-appropriate language. So, yeah, you know what? I'm nervous about this too. Here's what I'm doing to cope. Maybe that's something we can do together. Maybe you can help me with some of the things to help get ready just in case. So really validating and giving them the space to express whatever those fears or worries or concerns might be.
How do you know when it's time to seek professional help for either yourself or your children as we move through these seasons?
Well, like I say, we fully expect there to be some triggers, some memories, and whether it evokes kind of that trauma panic reaction or whether it's more just kind of a recollection and kind of a learned experience, thinking back on things. We expect things like disrupted sleep, hypervigilance, difficulty coping with emotions, whether it's withdrawal or whether it's kind of some weepiness, difficulty with concentration and focus. You might see people being more irritable. Right during the early and acute stages of things, that's fully expected. And what we expect is that to decrease gradually over time. Like I say, we've found that a year later, people are still experiencing at least some of those symptoms, but they're not interfering with daily life. Timing-wise at the moment, I look at things like return to school, back to work in the fall. Are you able to resume your normal routine? Are you back in the swing of things with maybe the odd bad night? Or are you really feeling not like yourself, or is your child really not readjusting to that school routine? Well, maybe that's the time where, you talk about it and, again, normalize. These are all normal reactions to have. It is a trauma. And maybe it's time to sort of say, you know what, I've been through this, and maybe I need some more coping strategies, or maybe I need, a little bit more assistance because I'm having trouble bouncing back. That's usually your signs or symptoms. So, 4 to 6 weeks out, we would expect you to be getting as much back to normal as you can, assuming that you have a normal to return to.
All right, Janine, we're going to have to leave that there, but you've given us lots of things to think about and take away. Thank you so much for this.
You're so welcome. Everybody, please stay safe. Take care of each other. Reach out and talk about your feelings.
Thanks so much, Janine. Janine Hubbard is a registered psychologist. We reached her in Newfoundland.